In this video, we're exploring Granada while answering a simple question. Are 48 hours and with 55 euros Granada Card enough to see it all? The card includes some serious highlights, most importantly the world-renowned Alhambra, the 13th century Moorish palace that once served as the seat of the last Muslim rulers on the Iberian Peninsula. But it also covers the Granada Cathedral, several monasteries, and a few surprises. Stick around and I'll give you an easy recommendation for the perfect Granada stay based on our experience. But first, let's start day 1 with the icon itself. We're starting the day with the main event, the Alhambra. Well, at least in the afternoon. We have 3 ticketed sites inside the Alhambra complex, and the main attraction, the Nasrid Palace, requires a specific time slot. Our slot is at 4 p.m, so the plan is to arrive around lunch and explore the rest of the complex before entering the palace. That leaves us the morning to get a few first impressions of Granada. And for that we want to try out one of the more quirky perks of the Granada Card. We're allowed to ride the city tour bus train. Yes, you heard that right. It's a bus that is also a train. The full loop takes about 90 minutes. The vehicle itself is narrow, so it can squeeze through the Granada tiny streets. But honestly, the novelty disappeared pretty quickly and we only lasted a couple of stops before getting off. The train sat forever at certain spots just to sell tickets, and with the audio guide not working, it just wasn't the perk we hoped it would be. Hopefully this isn't a standard for Granada's transport, but we weren't off to a great start. Now we're wondering what to do. Should we try to walk around the city with the time we have left? But then remember, the Alhambra alone can take up to 5 hours. So we changed plans, save our legs and head straight towards the palace complex instead. Surprisingly, we're only a few minutes away from the Alhambra, at least on paper. In reality, the Alhambra sits on a hill. And so begins the ascent.
The Alhambra, famously on a hill. Just 10 minutes or 15 minutes, but I'm really glad that we took the morning slow and low and just rode the bus. Because this is just too much of a workout so early. If we would have planned it a little bit better, we could have taken the bus actually right up to the gate. But then, where would be the fun in that?
About 20 minutes later, we enter through the Gate of Justice, the main ceremonial entrance to the Alhambra. It's massive, and intentionally so. If you arrived here in the 14th century, this gate made one thing very clear. You were entering one of the richest and most impressive royal courts in medieval Iberia. Once inside, the pathways guide visitors through the crowded routes. This area is still part of the free section, with toilets, vending machines and small shops. To avoid the noise though, we decide to step away and take in our first impressions. After wandering for about 15 minutes, we find ourselves at the entrance of the Generalife, the old royal gardens. On a whim, we decide to go in. We're already here, it's away from the main crowds, and it's one of the major ticketed areas anyway. Since the visit is basically a loop, we'll end up right back where we started afterwards. The Generalife was the summer palace of the Nasrid rulers, surrounded by massive walls. Granada, like much of Andalusia, gets extremely hot in the summer. So the garden was essentially a medieval air conditioning system. Fountains creating mists, shaded walkways under lush plants, and long water channels that even run along stairways. The Generalife wasn't just a summer retreat, it was a statement. In Islamic culture, paradise is described as gardens with flowing water and shade. The Nasrid rulers built this highly ordered garden, deliberately copying those descriptions. Walking through it, visitors experience paradise on earth, a visual manifestation of divine favor and the ruler's authority. In this way, the garden blended relaxation with religious and political symbolism.
Alrighty, we are just about done with the Generalife and it's almost 1 p.m. so the plan right now is to see what we can find for food here.
Surprisingly, there's actually a hotel with a restaurant right in the middle of Alhambra grounds, and we decide to give it a try. Even more surprising, it's reasonably priced and really good. Seafood is common on the menu here, even though the Sierra Nevada mountains sit between us and the sea. I opt for the seafood stew, and it's absolutely delicious. After lunch, we head back into the heart of the Alhambra, where the main buildings cluster together. We still have about 2 hours before our Nasrid Palace slot, which gives us time to explore the other ticketed areas first. The first building we hit is the one that usually catches people off guard. It's the only major non-Moorish structure here. And while the exterior might seem to blend in at first glance, its purpose was anything but subtle. The Spanish king, Charles V, had this massive Renaissance palace built right in the middle of the Islamic grounds to signal that a new era had begun. While the outside is a strict rectangle, the inside is a total surprise, a massive open-air circular courtyard. But the real shock? 2 museums tucked inside, each telling a different story of Granada's past. The first preserved Nasrid artifacts like ceramics and carved stucco, showing how people actually lived here centuries ago. The second is filled with Christian religious art from Granada's churches, some of which we'll see tomorrow. Today though, we found ourselves strangely captivated by a hyper-realistic painting of some fruit. Fun fact, despite its name, the palace was actually never used as a royal residence, and its construction was never finished. It's a good reminder that sometimes architecture is more about statement than function. We leave the Renaissance building with just over an hour before our time slot at the Nasrid Palace. We could explore some of the 3 buildings in the Alhambra, but we decide to skip them so we can stay fresh for our main event. Instead, we head to the Alcazaba fortress, which takes about 20 minutes to visit according to a friendly guide. The Alcazaba is the oldest part of the Alhambra, designed purely for defense. Its massive walls, high towers and hilltop position make it nearly impossible to assault. Soldiers could watch the city and valleys for miles, and the layout funnels attackers into narrow passages, giving defenders a huge advantage. Beyond defense, the Alcazaba symbolized Nasrid authority. Rulers could literally look down on Granada, reminding citizens and visitors who was in charge. Its towers weren't just lookout points, they were symbols of status, displaying the Sultan's control over the city and surrounding lands. For me though, the highlight is the breathtaking view of the Sierra Nevada mountains. After a brief and surprisingly intense struggle with a very stubborn door, we finally exit the fortress with 40 minutes to spare before our Nasrid Palace slot. Visitors are supposed to queue half an hour early, so we have plenty of time to relax and mentally and physically prepare for the star attraction. Everything we've seen so far has been leading to this moment.
Alrighty, it's 3:45, so we are pretty close to going into the main event. Super excited.
We've been exploring the city for 5 hours, excluding lunch, and we're still fresh and ready to be wowed. And wowed we are.
Oh damn, oh damn, oh damn. Oh wow.
We just enter the Nasrid Palace and are overwhelmed by the architecture and richly decorated walls and ceilings. This is by design. The meshwar, the first room, allowed the Sultan to instantly impress visitors. Our eyes are immediately drawn to walls covered in intricate stucco, a hallmark of Nasrid design. Some patterns are purely decorative, while others symbolically praise the Sultan as chosen by God. turning the walls into subtle statements of power. Then the cedar wood ceiling steals the show. Unlike Western monarchs, who projected power through size, Islamic rulers emphasized mastery and craftsmanship. The intricate patterns form a celestial canopy, a reminder of God watching over the ruler and his kingdom. The smaller rooms that follow are equally impressive, each with its own character. It's intense trying to take in every detail while moving from one space to the next. Finally, we reach the Court of the Lions. This palace is built around a central patio with a fountain of marble lions, representing paradise and calm. Surrounding galleries look a little bit like Christian cloisters, but the walls are covered in detailed stucco patterns and topped with pointed, stalactite-like ceilings. Behind these galleries are the private chambers of a Nasrid royal family, each more lavish than their last. The Sultan's room, with its decorative stucco and soaring ceiling, is especially breathtaking. We finally exit after about an hour, passing through a few more rooms and a large garden. Based on all my research, I expected a much quicker tour, but we were able to explore at our own pace. Maybe that's a perk of visiting in February. Fewer crowds meant the staff seemed relaxed about how long people could linger. The Nasrid Palace is phenomenal, truly world-class, but after 6 hours at the Alhambra and 16 kilometers of walking, we're officially done for the day. Besides, pretty much everything included in the Granada Card closes by 6 p.m. anyway. We need a good night's sleep, because tomorrow we're going to maximize the rest of the card by visiting the cathedral, chapel, monasteries, Albaicín and more. Before we can head back to our campsite for the night though, we have one last hurdle. The Granada Card includes 9 bus rides that we're counting on to get us there, but your printout is useless until you exchange the code for a physical card at a specific machine. Exhausted as we were, the hunt for a working machine felt like a final mini-boss. And these things are notoriously finicky. But we finally heard that beautiful click-clack and got our passes. We're heading home. Now let's just hope day 2 treats our transport luck a little bit better. Yesterday we focused on Moorish Granada. Today we flip the page to the Christian side. With the heavy hitter Alhambra behind us, we've only squeezed 22 euros of value out of a 55 euros Granada Card. It's a sightseeing marathon packed full, but we're determined to enjoy it, not just rush. Most sites open at 10 AM, and so we start at the Real Monasterio de San Jerónimo. The monastery marks the first major Christian construction in Granada, built just a few years after the fall of the Nasrid kingdom. It was meant to symbolize the new religious authority, and its Renaissance architecture reflects the ambition to transform the city completely into a distinctly Christian space. Step inside the church and the first thing that hits you is a massive golden altarpiece. Unlike the geometric patterns of the Alhambra, everything here is packed with saints, biblical scenes, and ornate columns. The goal is simple: overwhelm visitors with scale, gold, and Christian imagery. Consider me overwhelmed. We leave the monasterio after about an hour. Do you need an hour to see it all? No, not really. But since it's early in the day, we took the time to soak it in. Our next stop is the Cathedral of Granada, just a 10-minute walk away. No bus needed. Be careful though, it's tucked away in side streets so narrow you might walk right past without noticing it.
Man, we circled around the whole thing and it's impossible to actually grasp the size of this cathedral. Because first of all, It's super, super huge. It was supposed to be super huge. It was a statement basically of after Granada was captured, Islam is over, Christianity is here and it's gonna stay here. But also it's surrounded by all these buildings, like just like maybe 20 meters or so, and there's another building. So you really can't get far enough to really kind of like grasp the whole facades.
As with many Reconquista-era cathedrals, it was built directly on the site of a demolished main mosque of Granada. Technically, the mosque was first converted into a church and served that purpose for roughly 40 years though, until construction of a cathedral began. Step inside and the cathedral feels surprisingly bright and open. Instead of a dark, soaring atmosphere typical of Gothic churches, architect Diego de Sileo designed the interior around light, symmetry and massive wide columns. The space feels almost classical, closer to a Roman temple than a medieval cathedral, reflecting Renaissance ideals shaping Spain during its rise as a global power.
But also what's quite interesting is there are two organs here and they are on these pedestals and they're actually in the middle of the cathedral, which is quite unusual, I think. Usually they're kind of like in the back, but since there's like this additional corridor in the back, I guess they placed them in the middle. And there are two and they're right next to each other and they're surrounded by these huge, huge columns. In my opinion, humble opinion, this is the coolest part about it. The two organs just standing alone in the center of the cathedral and the very first white room.
Outside and just around the corner is the Royal Chapel of Granada. Since cameras are strictly forbidden inside, imagine this. You're standing just feet away from the tombs of the monarchs who fundamentally changed the map of the world. It's small, solemn, and definitely the heaviest history in the city. But because it's so compact, we were back out in the sun in no time. From the chapel, we walk a few steps to the nearby Alcaferia. Back in the day, this was the city's grand silk market, but today it's a maze of small souvenir shops. You'll find the classic pomegranate, the city's official symbol, alongside lamps and all sorts of trinkets. Even though it was rebuilt after a fire in the 1800s, the narrow, colorful alleys still give a medieval Moorish market feel, with tightly packed stalls and hanging textiles. After an extended lunch at Plaza Nueva, we're halfway through the day. 3 sides down, 3 to go. To cleanse the plate between the churches, we take a 4-minute stroll to the historic Casa de los Tiros. This house was built in the 16th century by the Venegas family, descendants of the Nasrid elites who converted to Christianity after the fall of Granada. It reflects how Muslim noble families adapted to the new Christian rule while preserving elements of their cultural identity. Next, we're heading to the monastery of the silent monks, La Cartuja. We're taking a bus this time, and after yesterday's bus train disaster and a ticket machine surge, I'm mentally prepared for anything. And of course it's packed to the brim. What is it with us and buses in this city? We're hopping off a kilometer early just to get some breathing room.
Oh my god. Oh my god, this bus was so packed. Oh my god, I'm not sure if this was worth it.
But honestly, it's a blessing in disguise. Granada is actually quite compact. You can reach almost everything on foot. Walking through the streets is how you actually see the city anyway. We arrive at the Monasterio de Nuestra Señora de la Asunción, the official name for this incredible complex. It was home to a religious order focused on silence and prayer, where monks lived alone in small whitewashed cells. Walking through the cloister, you really feel the calm and discipline of the austere world. Step into the church, however, and everything changes. The altar dazzles with red and black marble, gold, and opulent sculptures, full of movement and endless details. And then there is its sacristy, the most beautiful storage room in the world, with light bouncing off every polished surface. It's a powerful display of religious glory. The contrast is striking. Austerity outside, ceremonial extravagance inside, showing how the order blended contemplation with pure spectacle. We leave the monastery impressed and head to the Albaicín Quarter, one of Granada's most iconic neighborhoods and our final location for today. There aren't great bus connections, so instead it's a 30-minute walk that lets us soak in the city's character. Immediate impression? It's steep, hilly and charming, with narrow cobblestone streets winding between whitewashed houses. We reach the Albaicín, the most whimsical part of the city. Tiny paths, charming buildings, subtle decorations, lively streets, but not too much. The perfect retreat after a busy sightseeing morning and early afternoon. We get some dinner at a cozy local restaurant and head to the Mirador de San Nicolás, just in time for sunset. The Mirador attracts locals and tourists alike during this golden hour. From here, the Alhambra glows deep red in the evening light, a perfect reminder of why its name literally means the Red Fortress. So now it's time to answer the big question. Was the Granada Card worth it, and are 2 days enough to visit? Well, kinda. We definitely got our money's worth. I've put a final price breakdown in the description, but honestly, I could have skipped the bus train. And by the end, one monastery would have been enough for me. Also, as much historic value as the Royal Chapel has, I probably wouldn't bother paying the separate entrance fee if it weren't included. So if I could do it all over again, I'd actually go for the 3-day ticket. I bet you're surprised. Well, here's my reasoning. It only costs €5 more and includes even more sites, like the El Bañuelo Arabic baths, which is a much-needed palate cleanser after all those churches. More importantly, it lets you spread these sites out over a more manageable schedule, so monastery hopping doesn't feel like a race. Based on our experience, here's how I'd structure a perfect Granada trip. Day 1. The icon. Start with the Alhambra. The Nasrid Palace will wow you and set the tone for the whole trip. Reserve 5 to 6 hours here. Then keep the evening chill with a sit-down experience like a flamenco show in the Sacromonte caves. Day 2. The center. Visit the Cathedral and the Royal Chapel, since they're right next to each other. Then grab souvenirs at the nearby Alcaceria. The nearby Arabic baths are the perfect way to reset before or after lunch. In the afternoon, pick just one monastery to visit, then finish the day by wandering the Albaicín for sunset. Day 3. The deep dive. This day is wide open. You want more Moorish history? Explore the old houses. Looking for views? Hike the hills of Sacromonte. Traveling with kids? Check out the Science World. I haven't been there, but the photos on Google look cool. With this 3-day structure, your visit becomes memorable and flexible, while still getting every cent of value out of a Granada Card. Well, I have one last important hack before we wrap up. We got a Granada Card because there are no Nasrid Palace tickets left on the official site for our day in the city. But with the card, we still found available time slots. Anyway, that's pretty much all I can show you and tell you about Granada. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, consider leaving a like. And if you still have questions, drop them in the comments. I'll do my best to answer each one. How's the view? Is the view good?